I warmly welcome all of you to the Speaking English online lecture series, which has been designed by the International Association for Quality Education, along with South Asian International Association for Early Childhood Care and Development, in order to provide support to everyone who is keen in developing their communicational skills. I'm Dishan Jagannatham, the operational leader of International Association for Quality Education, and I'll be briefing you on this lesson, which is lesson 11, which is going to be on past tense, the usage of there was and there were. This series has been designed under the guidance of our president of International Association for Quality Education and South Asian International Association for Early Childhood Care and Development, Mr. Janaka Kamal Goda. The Sustainable Development Goals of this organization is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The purpose of organizing this lecture series is to improve communication skills in English and to overcome challenges in the global society. So now let's enter into the lesson. So the previous lesson was on present tense of there is and are. That's singular and plural. Now here we'll be discussing about past tense, the formation of there was or were plus the noun and adjective. So we've been discussing 4 types of sentences, which are positive sentences, negative sentences, positive questions, and negative questions. So let's move into the positive sentence. Before moving into this, when you say past tense, we all know we discuss about things which has happened, which have already taken place, which has already finished. So that's past tense. So when you're talking about an event which has already occurred, we make use of there was or were followed by the noun and adjective. Now here, if the noun is a singular noun, we make use of was. And if the noun is a plural, then we make use of were. So it will be there was plus noun or with adjective with place and time for a singular sentence. And for a plural sentence, it would be there were plus noun adjective followed by place and time. Let's have a look at these examples. There was a house. There was a cat. There were students. Now, if you look at the first example, there was a house. The noun house refers to a single house. Hence, we make use of there was. And what does this mean? There was a house. It means there was a house earlier, but now there isn't a house there. So previously, there had been a house in that particular area. There was a cat. There were students. So this too refers to an event which has occurred in the past. And since we all know students is a plural noun, we make use of were to make this sentence. Now moving on to positive sentences, the examples of non-living things, and later on we'll be going through examples of living things. No matter if it's living things or non-living things, the structure remains the same. So the structure is going to be there was or were plus noun, adjective, plus place and time. Let's look at the examples. There was an accident on the road. So accident refers to a singular noun. Since it's singular, we make use of was. There were so many errors in your letter. Errors, the word is a plural noun. Therefore, we make use of were. There was a beautiful film screened at the cinemas last week. So film is the noun, which is singular, and beautiful is the adjective. So since it was singular, we make use of was. Likewise, we have there were many beautiful beaches in Sri Lanka. There was a big parking area in front of the school to park vehicles. There were more cars on the road those days. I hope most of us would have seen carts. This talks about the bullock carts, which used to be on the roads in earlier days, so which is not to be seen now. There were four entrances around the auditorium. Moving on to living things examples, as I had told in the previous slide, for positive sentences, the structure remains the same for both living things and non-living things. So, living things, what are living things? Objects with life. Examples, humans, animals, plants. All these come under this category. There was a cat in our house. So, what's the noun here? The noun is the cat, and it is a singular noun. Therefore, we make use of was. There were many people standing at the bus halt. People is the noun. And when you say many people, we obviously know it's going to be more than one. It's plural. Therefore, we make use of were. There were so many rabbits in the park. There was a dog in front of the main entrance of her house. There were many delegates to speak at the conference. There was a cow in our school those days. There was a teacher who used to live near my house. So, what are the nouns in these examples? Cat, people, rabbits, dog, delegates, cow, and teacher. So, all of these nouns are living things. Moving on to the next type, which is negative sentences. The negative sentences, the word not will be included in the structure. Living things, non-living things, the structure remains the same. So the structure goes as there was not or were not, but I've always told it would be better to use the contracted form. So rather than saying there was not a house, we would always say there wasn't a house. So the structure, I repeat, there wasn't or there weren't, plus the noun and adjective followed by place and time. And wasn't will be used for singular nouns and weren't will be used for plural nouns. There wasn't a house under the hill. There wasn't a cat on the tree. Now, the first two examples, the nouns house and cat are singular. Therefore, we make use of wasn't. And in past tense, like these two, the sentences mean the explainers. There used to be a house. There wasn't a house under the hill, meaning there was a house, but now it does not exist there. It doesn't exist there anymore. There weren't many students in class. So students is a plural now. So we make use of weren't. Some examples have been given in this slide for non-living things. There wasn't an accident on the road. There weren't many errors in your letter. There wasn't a theater in our area previously. There weren't many beautiful beaches in Colombo. There wasn't a big parking area in front of the school. There weren't many vehicles on the road at night. There weren't four entrances around the auditorium. So what were the non-living nouns? Were you all able to identify the nouns? Yes. So the nouns would be accident, errors, theater, beaches, parking area, vehicles, and entrance. Let's move on to negative sentences for living things. So the structure remains the same, and we will be using the contracted form for was not or were not, which will be wasn't or weren't. There wasn't a cat in our house. There weren't many people standing at the bus halt. There wasn't a good leader to take the company forward. There weren't animals in the zoo. There wasn't a dog in front of the main entrance of a house. There weren't many delegates to speak at the conference. There wasn't a bird in the garden. So, what were the living things? The nouns cat, people, leader, animals, dog, delegates, and bird. Moving on to positive questions. In positive questions in past tense, we'll be making use of the words was or were. The questions will begin with either was or were. If it's going to talk about a singular noun, we'll be making use of was. And if we're going to make a question with a plural noun, we'll be making use of were. So the structure would be was there plus noun or adjective. I'm sorry, noun with adjective plus place and time. Or for a plural sentence question, it would be were there plus noun adjective plus place with time. Was there a garage in this area? So previously there could have been a garage. So you're asking, was there a garage in this area? Were there prefects in your class? Was there any water in the jar? Positive questions, non-living things. Structure was or were plus there plus noun adjective followed by place and time. The examples: was there an accident on the road? Were there many errors in your letter? Were there many beautiful beaches in Colombo? Was there a big parking area in front of the school? Were there many vehicles on the road at night? Were there 4 entrances around the auditorium? Now, the examples for positive, negative sentences and positive questions are the same. So the nouns, I guess you will be able to identify the nouns by now. Accident, errors, beaches, parking area, vehicles, and entrance. So all these nouns are non-living things. Moving on to examples of the positive questions of living things. In past tense would be was or were plus there plus noun adjective with place and time. So I repeat it again. For living things or non-living things, the structure remains the same at all times. Let it be positive sentence, negative sentence, or positive questions or negative questions. The structure does not change. Only thing which changes is the words was or were. It depends on if it's going to be a singular noun or a plural noun. So the examples in this slide are, was there a cat in our class house? Were there many people standing at the bus halt? Was there a good leader to take the company forward? Were there many animals in the zoo? Was there a dog in front of the main entrance of a house? Were there many delegates to speak at the conference? Was there a bird in the garden? And the last sentence, the type we'll be looking at is negative questions. While making negative questions, we make use of not. So the questions will either begin with wasn't or weren't, plus there with noun adjective followed by place and time. Wasn't there a garage in this area? Weren't there prefix in your class? Wasn't there any water in the jug? So since garage is a singular noun, we make use of wasn't. And prefix is a plural noun, we make use of weren't. And water is an uncountable noun, therefore we make use of wasn't. For non-living things, the negative question structure wasn't or weren't plus there plus noun and adjective with place and time. Wasn't there an accident on the road? Weren't there many errors in your letter? Weren't there many beautiful beaches in Sri Lanka? Wasn't there a big parking area in front of the school? Weren't there many vehicles on the road at night? Weren't there 4 entrances around the auditorium? So the nouns were accident, errors, which is a plural noun, beaches, plural noun, parking area, singular noun, vehicles, plural noun, entrances, plural noun. Moving on to living things. Negative questions, the structure remains the same. So let's go through the examples. Wasn't there a cat in our house? Weren't there many people standing at the bus halt? Wasn't there a good leader to take the company forward? Weren't there many animals in the zoo? Wasn't there a dog in front of the main entrance of her house? Weren't there many delegates to speak at the conference? Last one, wasn't there a bird in the garden? So, living things, as you all know, cat, people, leader, animals, dog, delegates, and bird. This slide summarizes the four structures which we've gone through in past tense, making use of was or were. So for positive sentences, the structure would be there was or there were followed with noun adjective. There was a service station in this area. There were prefix in our class. There was some water in the jug. And negative sentence structure would be there wasn't or weren't plus noun adjective. For singular, we'll make use of wasn't, and for plural, we'll make use of weren't. There wasn't a service station in this area. There weren't prefix in our class. There wasn't any water in the jug. Moving on to positive questions, it would be the questions will begin with was or were. If it's going to be a singular noun, we'll make use of was. And if it's going to be a plural noun, we'll make use of were. So was there or were there plus the noun. Was there a service station in this area? Were there prefix in your class? Was there some water in this jug? And negative questions, wasn't or weren't plus there plus noun. Wasn't there a service station in this area? Weren't there any prefix in your class? And wasn't there any water in the jug? Assessment and evaluation. So please visit the websites that have been given. There are 2 websites that have been mentioned. www.iafqa.org. Else you could visit saia4eccd.org. The the lessons have been given in both the websites. Go through the lessons and then take your time to answer the self-assessment forms and the questionnaires. And make 25 positive questions and negative questions. By doing so, it would be a good practice to familiarize what we've gone through in this lesson. So until we meet in the next lecture, I'll be meeting you in the next lesson, which will be lecture 12. So, thank you all for joining and have a pleasant day. Thank you.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.